Let's get started. Welcome, everyone. We appreciate you joining us today. I am Tara King, a Senior Project Director at the American Association for the Advancement of Science, or AAAS for short. AAAS is the world's largest general science association and the publisher of the science family of journals. I serve as a center coordinator for the S-STEM Resource and Evaluation Center, which is abbreviated as the S-STEM REC. AAAS is happy to facilitate this panel discussion among current S-STEM PIs of graduate program-focused projects. We thank our panelists in advance for providing their insights and sharing their experiences to aid others who are preparing S-STEM proposals, which are due by March 3rd. Next slide. I'd like to get started with a few housekeeping items. Please feel free to ask questions to our panelists at any time using the Q&A feature, which you can access at the bottom of your Zoom controls. We have enabled upvoting, so if you see a question that you'd like to hear the answer to, please give it a thumbs up. We will prioritize getting answers to questions that have the most upvotes. One other note about the Q&A feature: keep an eye on not only the open questions tab, but the answered questions tab as well. Some of the more straightforward questions may be answered in writing. The slides being presented today can be found on the AAAS S-STEM REC website. If you'd like to follow along with the slides on your computer, you can download them now. Thank you for putting the link in the chat. Also, a recording of today's webinar will be posted on our website when it becomes available. We are happy to have 2 American Sign Language interpreters joining us today. In addition, we're pleased to have a live transcriptioner providing closed captioning, which you can turn on using the bottom control bar of your Zoom screen. Many thanks to them for helping us make the information presented in this webinar more widely accessible. We hope that everything runs smoothly for you, but if you have any technical difficulties or questions, contact my colleague Rachel Stivers in the chat, or send her an email at rstivers@AAAS.org. Finally, we would really appreciate your feedback on today's session. We'd like to know how useful it was for you and any suggestions you have to improve it. A short survey will appear when you leave Zoom, and if you're unable to take it upon exiting today, a link to the survey will be emailed to you tomorrow. We appreciate you sharing your thoughts to help us improve our activities. Next slide. For anyone just joining us, hello and welcome. My name is Tara King, and I am the Center Coordinator of the AAAS S-STEM Resource and Evaluation Center. Let me provide a snapshot of today's agenda. First, I'll give a brief overview of the AAAS S-STEM Resource and Evaluation Center and direct you to resources that can help with your NSF S-STEM proposal. Then I'll pass the virtual microphone to Tom Kim, lead of the NSF S-STEM program, who will share important considerations for graduate-facing projects. Then we will spend the bulk of our time in discussion with our panel. We have 3 fantastic PIs of current S-STEM awards that support graduate-level scholars joining us today. They are Nina Goody from Montclair State University, Tim Huber from University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley, and Bob Rose from North Carolina State University. Next slide. Let's get started by briefly giving you some context about the REC. The management of the S-STEM Resource and Evaluation Center was awarded to AAAS in October 2022 through a competitive proposal process. The REC promotes effective strategies and practices to increase the number of talented, low-income students who obtain degrees and careers in STEM. The REC's work acts across multiple levels to accomplish this goal. For instance, it supports the effectiveness of the S-STEM portfolio through publishing S-STEM outcomes and impacts reports. It builds capacity of current and prospective S-STEM grantees through webinars like this one. And it supports S-STEM scholars' STEM persistence and professional development by convening an annual in-person scholars meeting. We welcome you to visit our website to learn more. Next slide. While the REC is managed by AAAS in coordination with NSF, we could not reach our goals without the significant contributions of our full team, which includes our partner organizations listed on this slide. Next slide. One of our partners, MN Associates, provides evaluation and research capacity building opportunities for the S-STEM community. We'd like to make you aware of a set of complimentary webinars that they are hosting on the topics of developing research and evaluation plans and using a logic model or theory of change. Links with more information have been posted in the chat. Also, M&A has created a useful guidebook on preparing research and evaluation plans for NSF S-STEM grant proposals, as well as repositories of tools and measures related to evidence-based practices. Additionally, you can reach out to M&A with your specific evaluation planning questions using a request form. We encourage you to explore these resources. Please note that we are promoting consultation with M&A as they are a REC partner. However, this does not constitute an endorsement of M&A as evaluators by the National Science Foundation. Next slide. Today's webinar is the last of 4 in our proposal preparation series. In case you missed our previous webinars, you can access the slides and recordings on our website. Resources from the first 2 webinars held in January may be particularly useful for you to look at. During them, NSF S-STEM program leads answered general questions from the audience. Next slide. And finally, as you prepare your S-STEM grant proposal, these 3 resources from NSF provide essential guidance. They are the current solicitation text, an S-STEM program overview recording that explains S-STEM program requirements in detail, and an FAQ document that answers the most commonly asked questions about the solicitation. All 3 links have been posted in the chat. We really encourage you to check them out. At this point, I'd like to pass things over to NSF S-STEM program lead Tom Kim to highlight important considerations for graduate-facing proposals. Tom.
Thanks, Tara, and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. I'm going to interject briefly about some issues that occur with some regularity within programs that try to incorporate graduate students as scholarship recipients. These are not altogether comprehensive lists, but some highlights for you to consider. So first and foremost, in general, S-STEM is a program directed towards addressing the needs of highly qualified but low-income students through scholarship support and other wraparound services. And although it is a little bit more work to ascertain low-income status for graduate students, it is a requirement since that is the seminal benchmark for how the program operates. Okay. We can go back to the prior slide. Thank you. And so the eligibility of your scholars must be determined on an annual basis when the bill for their tuition and fees comes due. Prior eligibility as an undergraduate or in years past in any context cannot be used to establish their current eligibility. There are different ways to go about this. You can actually have them fill out the FAFSA and ascertain if they would be Pell eligible, even though they're not in line to receive Pell grants as graduate students. Other sorts of countermeasures can be used in the context of your particular proposals. A reminder that the scholarship can endure for a maximum of 5 years at any degree level. And that is a hard stop. Congress wrote that into the legislation. And so for degree programs that have a longer than 5 year duration, you're going to have to explain how your project actually facilitates their success, which is measured by degree attainment. So if there's a gap, you're going to have to actually provide an explanation as to how that's going to work. Scholarship funds can be used to remit costs of attendance, and that is the bill that financial aid puts together with respect to tuition and fees and other university costs. Other aspects of graduate study can be underwritten, but do not count against the scholarship requirement. So things like graduate stipends, assistantships are allowable, but they do not constitute scholarships. They are a separate request item within the budget. And lastly, you must demonstrate current existing populations of students who meet eligibility requirements. If you have a new professional science master's program and you think that S-STEM might be beneficial towards populating that program by leveraging those scholarships, that's not going to fly. Because if you have a new program, you have no historical data for what the challenges are that confront the students who are low income in that program, and therefore you're going to be deficient in terms of the reporting requirements in your proposal. So this is to address the needs of students that exist and that you can demonstrate have issues, challenges, and strengths within the context of the current degree program. So that's just a quick glossary of some things you might want to consider with regard to your graduate-facing programs. And with that, I am going to pass the mic back to Tara.
Thanks so much, Tom. Now I'm happy to introduce our panelists, who are PIs of current Track 2 S-STEM Awards. We have Dr. Nina Goody, who is a professor of chemistry and biochemistry at Montclair State University in New Jersey. Dr. Timothy Huber, mathematics professor and associate dean for graduate programs in the College of Sciences at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. And Dr. Bob Rose, associate professor of biochemistry at North Carolina State University. You can find complete bios of panelists on our website and more details about each of the panelists' S-STEM projects in links shared in the chat. Next slide. So please, if you have any questions for the panelists, we welcome you to enter them in the Q&A box. We also welcome you to direct your questions to a specific panelist by indicating their name. Also remember, you may upvote questions that have been asked and check the Answered Questions tab for written responses. If something seems to be a bit more technical, Tom might reply to that question in writing, for instance. One final note, the aim of today's discussion is to seek advice and insights from current PIs of S-STEM programs that support graduate level scholars. If your questions are more solicitation-based, please refer to resources that I mentioned earlier, including the NSF S-STEM program overview, an FAQ document, as well as recordings of the REX proposal prep webinars that were held in January. Okay, we could take our slides down now. Welcome, Nina, Tim, and Bob. Thank you all so much for joining us today. To kick off our discussion, I'd like to give each of you some time to briefly introduce yourself and provide your response to our opening question, which is, what is something you wish you would have known before submitting your first S-STEM proposal? We'll start with Nina and then go to Tim and then Bob. So, hi, Nina. What do you wish you would have
Hi.
known? Well, after you introduce yourself, what do you wish you would have known?
Sure. Thanks so much for inviting me. And my name is Nina Goody. I'm a professor of chemistry and biochemistry at Montclair State University in New Jersey. Our master's program is a relatively small program in the Department of Chemistry and Biochemistry, and our S-STEM grant supports students in our chemistry master's program and pharmaceutical biochemistry master's program. Um, One of the things I wish I had known before writing the STEM grant is I wish I had understood um, some of the differences between an undergraduate population and graduate population. As I have been um, involved with this program, I've realized that um, undergraduates tend to have more needs for certain kind of supports, and master's level students have needs for different types of supports. And we've been, as the program has progressed, we've been kind of shifting our supports. So things I've learned, I wish I had known, is that how difficult it is for master's level students at our institution because of work requirements, family requirements, commuting requirements to participate in research. And so a lot of the supports that we had planned involved things like, building community, how to do resumes. And as we did the program, we realized that they need a lot of support in just how to be able to access research opportunities. And I'll probably talk more about that, but that's the main kind of thing I wish I had understood about the difference is how much students from low income backgrounds at the master's level require specific supports to be able to fully take advantage of research opportunities.
Thank you for sharing. Tim, what are your thoughts? And after you introduce yourself.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm Tim Huber at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. I'm a professor of mathematics and associate dean for the College of Sciences for graduate programs. I think the one thing that I wish I would have known before my first submission was the importance of social scientists and education experts on the team. So make sure you pick a really, really good one because they can give you good advice and really form the foundation of what you're going to do. Um, I think it's a good idea it would have been a good idea to design the instruments that we used in the proposal a little bit more carefully, especially with data that we collected from students before we wrote the proposal. We've made revisions to the program to better measure the things that we wanted to measure, but I think thinking about those beforehand is really important. And then finally, and this will repeat a little bit of what Nina says, um, be really. I wish I would have known about building community, not just services for students, making sure that we design activities that include public recognition of student accomplishments, and also recognize the challenges that working students face.
Thank you for those insights.
Yeah,
What are your thoughts?
my name is Bob Rose, and I'm in the Department of Biochemistry at North Carolina State University. I'm a structural biologist, and I teach some classes, undergraduate classes in biochemistry and protein science. So we had an NSF grant in 2017, and we have a new grant starting now. I think you know, well, uh, a few things. I think one thing that I wish I had known is that the funding structure in our university is kind of complicated. So we were able to leverage our grant to get funding, matching funds from the deans and also department. So we were able to fund our students completely, which I think is somewhat unusual. And that really helped us recruit low-income students. Um, and so our students are master students in biochemistry. It's also, our program is interdisciplinary, so they can work in labs in different departments. And so we've tried to incorporate that into our program. And also, our students do kind of rotations in different labs. Um, One thing I wish I understood, so since we had lots of sources of money coming in, it's complicated at a university how the money is apportioned. And so if you have different fellowships, then one fellowship has to be the dominant fellowship, and it can get confusing. So at some point we were paying people twice for different sources. So that's something that you might not know until you try it at your university, I think. But that got straightened out eventually. Uh, but,
So we have a question related to this topic of financial need, actually asked in our chat that I'd like to pose to you all. This person asks, can you share how you defined low income for purposes of your proposal in order to demonstrate current need? Bob, would you like to start on that? And then if Timothy or Tim or Nina would like to jump in?
yeah, so we definitely worked with our financial aid office and discussed that a lot with them. But we use the FAFSA form to uh, evaluate need. Um, for graduate students, the students are considered independent of their parents. So in a way, you're evaluating their need at the moment, as opposed to growing up poor. I think for us, we found that many of our students are first generation students, and though they they knew the FAFSA form because they had been filling them out as graduates, and often I think in say biochemistry, students who have a academic background or know they often go straight into programs. So the master's program really provides a resource for people who don't have that background, and kind of gives them opportunities to learn what research is about and graduate school is about.
Tim, I saw you shaking your head a little bit. Did you do something similar?
Almost exactly, yes. So we really relied on our financial aid office and the FAFSA forms. I know the FAFSA has changed, but it's still a great resource for it's something that we should have our graduate students fill out.
Nina, how did you define low income?
Yeah, so very similar. So we had the criteria like written out in the proposal, and then we shared that text with our financial aid office, and they were able to, develop a process in the office. And what's really nice about that is then whenever like our PI group is never involved with the students, FAFSA information, we just make sure that students, fill their FAFSA, and then the financial aid office basically just uses the criteria that we had set out in the proposal to determine eligibility, and basically just sends us a yes, no for each semester. So that's basically been really helpful to us that they kind of went through that whole process. The one thing I would say about that is I think that the fact that we had a contact through our dean's office in the financial aid office, and we were able to kind of set up a meeting with the director and like lay it all out, and then they took it on as a project, was really key for us, because I think that piece would be very complicated. I think you need to work with like kind of higher level at the financial aid, because it's not as simple as a lot of the other kind of determinations that they do. So that's my I think my take home message from that piece, is that having a contact that's a little bit more decision making ability in the financial aid office is really helpful.
So I see a follow-up question from the audience. We'll start with Nina. Can you share the specific criteria that you use to define low income using data from the FAFSA? Did you use Pell eligibility or another metric like percent of area median income or percent of poverty level?
Yeah, so we have they have to meet one of several criteria. So Pell eligibility is in there, but there are additional criteria that are like state designations. I'm sorry, I don't remember all of that. I have it in the proposal, and I'm happy to follow up with more of that information. So we worked really closely with the financial office, like when we developed the criteria, but it incorporates, I believe, like four different New Jersey state financial aid related like poverty metrics. And it's not like they have to meet this metric. It's like they have to meet one of these metrics, basically, is kind of the approach. I don't know if that's helpful, but
Bob or Tim, do you have anything to add to this question?
We did something similar, and again, really relied on our financial aid office to define the criteria. But they sort of have this ready-made for a lot of different programs, which was convenient. And this isn't specific to the questions being asked, but I would have liked to consider increases in scholarships because 5 years is a really long time. And our tuition hasn't gone up much, but even a small increase for low income students can make it a lot harder to persist.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Pell eligibility was a kind of key criteria for us. And I agree, having someone you can talk to in the financial aid office and who understands your needs for this type of grant is key, and that was true for the people we worked with.
So it sounds like having that relationship and partnership with financial aid was so valuable for you in your proposal writing. Were there other on or off-campus partnerships that you had that were really valuable as you developed your STEM proposal? I'll start with Nina.
yes. So I think one of the other partners that was really important for us was the faculty. Because as we were thinking about our master's students, they're less, the undergraduates are it's just a different group of people. So with the master's students, especially, we had to really make sure that we kind of kept the faculty in our department aware of what we were thinking, and also like heard them about what would help them mentor their master students. Because a lot of times if a master student is doing a thesis, their primary advisor will be their research advisor. So talking with the faculty was helpful. We also planned some of the professional development events with our career services. So we were able to kind of meet with them to plan some of the events even when we were writing the proposal. And then we became aware of existing professional development events. Like they basically told us, like, we have these events that, don't create the same events. We already have them on our campus, and let's just, work together and have them come, basically have us invite your population to these events as well. So that was really important. Um, Another piece is student accounts. So this was more after receiving the award, but just the whole process, we needed a letter from them, or we had a letter from them to support our application that they are, aware that they're going to be helping us just with the logistics of paying the scholarships. And I think that was very important. Just to have that relationship because, it's very busy when the scholars arrive. And then if you don't have that existing relationship built, it can be, I think, very overwhelming to try to get those scholarships like paid, as it is always a little bit more complicated than one would expect, I think. And then we did reach out to our alumni with some questions about what they wish they had had in our master's program. So some of those responses then helped us think about like what we should be offering as part of our program. And that was just kind of a helpful, fairly informal survey of what our alumni wish they had had while in our program.
Those are great insights. Bob, do you have stuff to add?
Um, I feel like I talked to everyone I could think of. I talked to the department head and figured out her vision of the project. I talked to faculty members who would be mentors and see what if they would sponsor master's students. I mean, in our university, people want PhD students a lot. So, what's the role of a master's student in labs? Um, I talked to department heads because we're interdisciplinary, so we have other departments involved and see what their insights were. I feel like I talked to other groups on campus that have scholarships for students and try to see how they're organized and things like that. And um, I talked to the the graduates. There's a lot of places that collect data in the university on the undergraduate level and the graduate level. So I talked to them and tried to get information about who the graduate students are, where they come from, what the demographics were, things like that. Um, and then, you know, different co-PIs that we drew from different departments and that. We also have a board, and I don't know if that's required, but we have an outside board of people to get advice from. We have some people from industry on the board. We have a dean on the board, and some and department heads on the board. So try to get some more outside information to evaluate um, if we're doing a good job in the program. So yeah, especially trying to figure out the needs of people. Yeah.
Thank you. Great advice. Tim, anything to add?
I think having regular listening sessions for all of your graduate students, either by department or college, so that you can determine where things are going wrong or what you're doing well, and then tailor your proposal to that. And that way you don't have to collect a survey information. You have current information to work with. We also really benefited a lot from an established Center for Excellence in STEM Education, who they help us support our professional development, and we work with them to give them advice about what our students need.
Bob, you had mentioned on your external advisory board, you had somebody from industry on it. And this question is about effectively incorporating workforce development into your project activities. Can you talk about things that worked well for you, or there are things that you thought might have worked well but were a challenge?
Sure. So a lot of our students, when they come in, want to get good jobs in industry. I think they all say that. We have had some people continue a PhD program afterwards, but you know, that's something I don't have industry experience, and I think a lot of people here don't. So we've tried to think of ways to help our students to get some industry experience or I don't know, prepare them for industry. Um, so we get some advice from people in industry to think about what the market is like. I mean, we're in RTP, Research Triangle Park, and so there's a lot of biotech in the area and a lot of interest in finding matching students with tech. One thing we did and is we've tried to find mentors for students from industry since we, as I said, didn't feel like we could prepare them, with a lot of the insights. So during the second year, we find that in industry there are lots of people who would like to help students, and so we try to match people with their goals and finding industry a mentor. And so that's been very helpful, I think. Besides doing, career development and getting the resources from the campus to help people think about, their resume and their LinkedIn page and the things that the industry will look at. So we have a seminar we started in the first semester, and we do bring resources from the campus for people to um, kind of get connected with that. But mostly people are thinking by the second year, where they're going to get their job. And so that is when we find the mentors.
Nina or Tim, do you have anything to add about industry involvement and workforce development?
I have one thing to add. One thing that has actually been really good for us has been two things. So we started departmental seminars, and it was something we had wanted to do anyway, but this project kind of helped us push that through. So now we have approximately like four outside speakers come each semester, and all the students in the STEM program are, encouraged to go. We have pizza. We sent them lots of, reminders and kind of make it where, hopefully they would come. And they have an opportunity then to meet with the speaker afterwards. And we invite a lot of our alumni who are in the local industry. So it's a great like opportunity for them to network and just kind of build a contact on LinkedIn or learn a little bit about um, what the industry work life is like. So that's been like very helpful for our students to make those connections. And I think it just also they get often the speakers, we ask them to kind of talk a little bit about their career path as well as the seminars. So they talk a little bit about like what they how they kind of went from being a master's student to getting that job and what was helpful and how to navigate that process. So those seminars are great. And then another thing that we've done that's really helpful is we have an alumni network session and a panel. So we invite alumni, not necessarily from the STEM program, but just from our master's program to come. And there is like dinner, and then everybody networks, but also a panel discussion where they give advice similar to kind of the seminars, but there's no presentation. It's just all about career advice. And we usually have about 5 or 6 alumni come for the panel, and then the students in the STEM program, have an opportunity to talk to them and also like often connect with them on LinkedIn. And that event has definitely led to a lot of different like career opportunities for our program. So those two things have been super helpful for our students to basically get jobs.
We come from, or my area is sort of my co-PIs and I felt that like the job opportunities were limited because of the high poverty, and I mean we don't have a lot of industry here, so we work with other institutions like UT Dallas and our partners in places where there are a lot of jobs. We do have some opportunities here, but if you feel that you're similarly isolated or that you don't see a lot of opportunities locally, there are things that you can do to partner with other organizations and places where those opportunities exist.
Thank you for sharing your experiences. I also want to add, my colleague Julius posted in the chat, the STEM Rec has recently published a deep dive report on fostering industry partnerships. So we welcome you all to check that out as you think about building partnerships with local industries in your area. This is a question I'm not sure, because if I have it correctly, all three of your programs focus on masters mainly, right? Yeah. And I'm not sure if you have different outcomes or if the outcomes for those students are to go into the workforce directly. But this person is asking, they say, their proposal aims to support 18 scholars. 12 of them will mainly aim to earn BS degree in computer science, data science, and join the workforce. So they're coming from undergraduate. The other 6 will mainly aim to earn bachelor's degrees and then transfer to a master's program in data science. What should they particularly pay attention to in preparation for a combined program where scholars are going to be going into different kinds of tracks. I don't know if you have any advice if your programs are in any way similar to this. Just wanted to put it out there.
Can that be done in 5 years? That would be one thing to think about.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bob.
We've focused on master's students, so I don't know. Yeah, I don't have experience with that. Yes. Yeah.
Nina, any insights?
Mm.
Yeah, our focus has been just on the masters, so yeah, I haven't thought about that.
Sorry about that. I would encourage you to go back to our earlier proposal preparation webinars because there might have been some discussion on different pathways for supporting scholars. I'm also wondering, like, once you proposed your project and you got awarded, and then you got into the nitty-gritty of implementation, were there any things that were really surprising or unexpected while you were implementing your proposed project that maybe made you pivot or shift plans? Um, I'll have Bob start us off.
Well, it's very different when you start implementing in general. Um, I'd say one thing was recruiting students. We recruit students not from our institution, but from in local throughout North Carolina. So we go out and recruit. And so that took us a while to learn the best way to do that. We the graduate school has uh, strategies they use for recruiting for to the university in general, and we kind of joined them at a lot of things. But they would go to career fairs, and they were very general things. So it took us a while to realize that the best way that we learned to recruit was actually we go to um, different meetings where students give posters, and we talk to the students directly. And you know, we feel like the personal interactions really have helped us recruit students. So it took us a while to realize the best strategy. We also go to local small colleges. They're very happy to see us there because they're looking for opportunities for their students. So different strategies we learned. And over time you develop um, contacts in different places. So that's really helpful for us too.
Tim, any insights you would like to share about what surprised you while you started implementing your project?
Uh, I think I mentioned that the instruments didn't always do what we intended them to do. So that was a bit of a surprise that the extent to which we needed to make changes to those. And in general, a lot can change in 5 years. And I think that we just need the PIs need to be the team needs to be prepared to address those changes. One of the things that I'm thinking about is AI. So our program focuses on mentoring, and that includes research mentoring. And I think right now students need a lot of help figuring out how to use AI. You know, how to it can be really useful. It can provide a lot of nonsense. So how can they use it most effectively to locate resources and learn about new fields faster, and distinguish between the good and the bad information, and then where to take that information, and that's a pretty big lift, I think. Some institutions are thinking about it, but I think in general, the team needs to be ready to take new developments like this and say, well, this wasn't originally part of our framework, but it needs to be because it's a big deal now.
And Nina, implementation insights from you?
Yeah, so I think the biggest kind of surprise was when starting to implement is that some of the things that we thought were going to be very helpful and something that the students would be happy to, participate in, um, just weren't because of their um, limited time. Some of the students have families, they have a lot of different work obligations, family obligations, financial obligations. A lot of them work on top of going to school. So it's just, I would say all of them work almost. So we thought that, internships would be great. So we worked very hard to establish an internship opportunity for the students in the program at Bristol Myers Squibb, which is a pharmaceutical company where a lot of our alumni have gone on to. And it was like a big project. People at Bristol Myers Squibb, our alumni contact was super helpful. We established this program. And the real shocker was we didn't get our students to apply. And when we talked to them, they said, look, we just can't, this internship is for 12 weeks. We can't take off 12 weeks from work and assume that we're just going to be able to go back. We also need to make progress towards our thesis. We can't afford to extend our, time in our master's program. So then we started kind of understanding that there are all these different like factors that yes, of course they would love to do an internship. It's a great professional opportunity, but there's so much more going on with those master students and what they can feel that they can or cannot do. So then we were able to develop a different model with our BMS alumni, and where BMS was basically supporting them doing research in a faculty lab at Montclair State towards their thesis. But they had several checkpoints where they visited BMS. They had a BMS mentor, and they they had like a final presentations at BMS where the staff from BMS came and they were able to network with them. So that model worked a lot better. Unfortunately, the funding for that was cut because it was a diversity initiative. And so they were not able to do it anymore. But so we did not think from the start that it needed to be that type of a model, but that's a big take-home message for us. Another thing that's related where we had to pivot was we had wanted to as many of our S-STEM scholars to do research as possible. That we know that's one of the determining factors that helps them get a good job afterwards. So we were, educating them on that. And as we were doing that, we learned that some of them really wanted to do a thesis research project or wanted to do research, wanted to get research experience, but they just couldn't, with their work schedule, their family obligations, et cetera. And that's really common amongst our students. And we thought it was some students that had that situation, but it's much more common than we realized. So then what we did, we pivoted to, we have some students doing, thesis research with faculty, and the faculty members have to be very flexible with a lot of those students. But we also realized that we can offer some of those opportunities as part of our coursework. So we've been working with our department to incorporate like little mini research projects into the master's level courses, just to give them some opportunity to like learn how to use instrumentation and how to do projects and hands-on things. So that's kind of the direction we ended up going in to allow for those students who are not able to do thesis research to at least have something on their resume where they had some classes where they used instrumentation, et cetera. And that kind of goes also for the professional development. We realized a lot of them we're not attending the professional development opportunities that were provided by our career services or by us. And then we started to do a little bit more, in our master's level classes, now most of the classes incorporate some sort of a presentation where the students have to get up and present to the class. So we tried to sort of say, okay, well, if they're not really attending our professional development sessions as much as we would like, then let's try to shift some of that professional development and incorporate it with the classwork. And that's been, I think, to me, that seems like that's been very effective. And then one more thing where I feel like we had to pivot was oh yeah, so we know that If you tell them, okay, we have this resume workshop, they are, weighing their different obligations, they might not come. But if we tell them, like, you have this networking opportunity with this faculty, this alumni speaker from industry, they're much more likely to come. So we sort of had to learn, like, what kind of events would they actually come to? Um, and I think so far, like, the answer is they come to events where they feel they can meet with someone who might help them understand work life, or like to network to get a job in the future. And if they think the event is going to help them with that, they're much more likely to attend.
I appreciate you talking about this because it's so important. As everybody knows, um, engagement activities cannot be required by STEM programs. They're strongly encouraged, but there is no way to, um, require them. And it's really important, I think, to make the activities appealing and beneficial and useful for the scholars to want to attend, to want to be there. And I appreciate you sharing that. So I kind of wonder if Bob or Tim have some insights on how what they've found to work to sort of get your scholars involved in wanting to come to STEM activities.
Um, yeah, I guess. Well, I mean, one thing that Nina said, our students do feel like, well, that was something I had learned, that they have more sense of obligation to their families, than most people, that or responsibilities than a lot of people. I mean, we were paying the students from our other sources, so that helped some from that. Um, we organized events we mostly had for our first year students and who were just starting, and we made it into a course. And so the people were attending, and it was part of this cohort building idea, so that and I think they appreciated coming together and meeting once a week. So we did that for the first semester for the students. Uh, and the other interactions, I think, were more individual. I think we didn't have as many organized events, as Nina was saying. So, um, we would meet with them, or we would have social events for people to come to and get to know each other, or kind of communicate. Um, yeah. Uh, so I think we've found sometimes we didn't know what students' experience were, and getting together socially helped really to kind of, because they're all in labs in different places, and when they come together, then they kind of talk about it. So we had social events to talk about that. I don't know.
We had a sort of a division between students who have full-time jobs and those that don't. So for those that don't, the some of the activities like the department teas and the um, they tended to participate more in the community, and then those that worked didn't or couldn't. Uh, but almost everyone participated in some of the other social events. The We have recognition ceremonies for students every semester where we invite their families, and most students, even the working ones, came to that. So I think it's important to have a variety of events, and especially have events in the evening when think about the schedules of the students that you're working with that do have full-time jobs.
Thank you. I'm going to take another question from the audience, and this is on the topic of evaluation. Can anyone share how they've approached evaluation? Have you been working with an external evaluator or internal personnel not involved in the project? Any experience with using an advisory council-based evaluation strategy? Who would like to begin with talking about evaluation?
I'm
Go ahead,
happy
Nina.
to. Yeah, so we use an external evaluation company, and that's been one of the very best things about like running this program. The most one of the most helpful things is having that partnership. We started thinking that I think Tim mentioned like the surveys, are they effective questions? Alluded to that a little bit. And we did find that, with our very small program sizes and sample sizes, the kind of surveys that we had planned were not very effective. And then our evaluator helped us kind of pivot to more of a interview and focus group based evaluation approach. So I think that also kind of the research aspect of our program was improved as a result of, sort of discussions with our evaluator. So that has been really helpful, like that human kind of research side. We get a lot of helpful suggestions from our evaluator in terms of like how to understand the effectiveness of our program. And I think some of the pivots we made were because of not so much that the evaluator told us like, oh, you should do this, but kind of they helped us understand our student population better. And then because we understood our student population better, we were able to kind of say, okay, like this is not working as well, so let's try something a little bit different. So yeah, that partnership. And I didn't mention that. I should have to the question where who was helpful in writing the proposal. So we did contact them at the stage of writing the proposal. So we didn't know them as well at that point. So I guess the more one can kind of establish that relationship as part of writing the proposal, the better. I think the more they would have been able to help kind of design that evaluation strategy. Whereas I think for us, there was an evaluation strategy in the proposal, but it pivoted a lot as a result of like, just understanding better what our program is like and what makes sense.
Great that they provided such formative feedback for you to make adjustments in real time. Tim, what is your experience working with your evaluator?
It's great to have a really good evaluator that can help you identify and solve problems. Uh, um, let's see. One of the issues that we experienced was that uh, we have a sort of a mentoring system that's layered, and there was some confusion about. So we have a research mentor, we have a alternative mentor that doesn't necessarily address research, but might be somebody that the students can get a second opinion from. It can help with the job search and other things. And students were puzzled at what does the second person do? And that's one of the things that our external evaluator helped us to identify and to address.
So we have someone as a co-PI in the program who is from the education department who thinks about assessment and evaluation, but she really helped us advise us when we were writing the grant and thinking about issues that come up more daily, I don't, or more often, frequently. Um, and so that was a great input for us. And then we have an external evaluator that evaluates the program. They've been very good about discussing and learning about the program and what our goals were in the evaluation. And um, they evaluated the student experience, but they also evaluated the mentors and they tried to think about how we fit into the university community and how what kind of support there was or what kind of comments were or I don't know, ways to improve the program from different aspects of the university. So that was interesting too, to hear that and get their feedback. So yeah, but the evaluation group we could really work with and talk to and discuss what their insights and our goals. But we ended up doing interviews too. There were some surveys, but we have small cohorts, as Nina said, and so that they really interviewed a lot of people to get insights.
It's great to hear how each of your projects have a strong relationship with your external evaluators. Happy to hear that. Um, some of you mentioned mentorship, which is another um, required component of an S-STEM proposal is beyond cohorts, and then that scholars have faculty mentorship. Um, I'd like to hear a bit about how you're implementing mentorship for your scholars in your programs. And I'll start with Tim because you started talking about how your program has multiple mentors. So I'm interested in hearing a bit more about that. And then we'll go to Bob and then Nina.
So we based our proposal on a lot of what's mentioned in the National Academy's reports on mentoring and some of the other reports. And this sounded really good, and it was good, but these reports don't they often come with notes about implementation, but they're not really fine-grained, and how you implement an idea is as critical, I think, as the idea itself. So uh, my advice would be to think carefully about how to apply your mentoring model to your students, and especially how you'll support your particular students. Uh, this is part of this is creating a really meaningful profile that describes your students and how they'll use the structures that you're going to that are in your program. Um, I think it's important to serve the students you have. Uh, for instance, don't say that you're going to increase your support for students because of the program. Rather, talk about how you're going to serve the students that exist in reality in your programs with the personnel and the other resources that you already have in place.
Yeah, so the way our program is set up is our students find labs, and so they have an advisor that they're doing their master's research in. So that's kind of the institutional advising kind of setup. We help them find labs, and we also help think about if there are problems in the lab. And I think the program has become kind of an independent resource for students and an independent support. And I think that's really helpful to the students. They have somewhere to go. We don't, we're not judging them on a day-to-day, like, are they doing their research? Are they getting good grades? I mean, we have we want all our students to succeed. And so when there are problems, the PI, the co-PIs, and we have a staff person that we've hired kind of help support them and give advice to them. So I think that's a really good model and not something that students have necessarily outside of this program. Uh, so that's important. We've also tried to this time in this grant we're going to implement workshops for advisors, the mentors themselves, and we didn't do that in our first grant, and I think that'll be really insightful. Hopefully, the professors, the PIs, will be interested in participating in that. But yeah, we're going to think about advising from the PI side of it too.
For us, we have the thesis research advisor for the student is their primary advisor in our program. And if they are doing a thesis, which many of them are, but not all, then we really like kind of defer with even the academic advising to that research advisor. Of course, we're available if they have questions, but we don't because those mentorship relationships tend to be very strong, and there's a lot of interaction. And then we have another population of students who are doing what we call a literature review. So they are, instead of a thesis, they basically don't do a research or a thesis. They do something called literature review, where they find a faculty member who advises this kind of like a review that they write on a topic in chemistry. And so there's some mentorship through that, but it's that population of students that then will have won't have as strong of a mentorship. So the mentor through their research, also they will be connected with that literature review advisor kind of later, typically. So we try to reach out to that population more just to check on to see how things are going. If we're teaching one of the graduate classes, because we have many of the team are teaching also our master students. So we try to kind of check in with the students as part of the coursework, because that's when they're definitely going to be in person. And we can kind of chat with them and check in with them. So that's another kind of mentorship touch point, just using the master's level coursework. And then let's see. We have implemented different things. Like we had these kind of like monthly tea sessions, but the students weren't really coming. And the report was kind of that, we don't really have the time to come for tea and talk to you. Like, if we need help, we'll email you. So that type of mentorship where we just kind of socially get together hasn't really materialized very much in our program. The feedback is always like, we would love to hang out with you, but we don't have the time. So, just let us do our thing. Let us move on with our things we need to do. Finally, like the one thing that has been good is we created an email address for students to email. So we all get that email. And so then that's like our advising email. So if they have questions that are sort of more urgent, like, can this course be substituted for that course or something like that? They'll email that email address, and then we take turns monitoring that. And that's a way for us to kind of get back to them with sort of academic urgent questions. So that shared email has been very helpful.
It's great advice. So going back to your point, Nina, of students being busy with time, we have a question in the chat. I'm curious if your programs did any weekend activities, and if you did so, were they well attended? It sounds like, Nina, like did it matter if it was the weekend or weekday, the social activities on your campus? Is it just that they weren't well attended because students didn't have time?
Yeah, I would say that they were not like ours. Just social events were not well attended. However, alumni network sessions are very well attended. So we've had most of those in person. We've had a couple in Zoom, and either way, they were super well attended. Those were all not on the weekends. The only like weekend activities we've had are we had a trip to like the Brookhaven National Labs. That was something that we thought would be great. And again, it was like the students who came had a great time, but most of the scholars, it was on a Saturday, and most of the scholars didn't come. And they all said like we would love to come, but we just need to do other things on a Saturday. So, we carried part of the visit. We had like a Zoom going on for them, so they could see things a little bit, and some of them like logged in. Yeah, but it was not super successful. Like it felt like it was a nice thing, but it wasn't super successful.
Mhm. Tim, what's your experience with activities on the weekend?
We didn't have activities on the weekend. Most of our students are uh, after their full-time jobs during the week. If they have Saturday off, then they really wanted to spend it with their families. But our evening events were better attended. I mean, we didn't get everyone, but having some evening events, I think is a good idea. I think that Saturday events could work, but if you could try to find out if they're feasible somehow beforehand by talking with your students, that's a good idea.
Also, like for us, another factor is that our students, commute a long way. So they're already, we usually have our events on the same days that there are graduate level courses. And that way, like, they're more likely to come because they're already coming and driving to campus.
If we didn't have weekend events, I think people don't necessarily like that. And except one or two social events, but in general, no, we
Mhm.
don't really do that.
So it sounds like it's really important to um, tailor your proposal to meet the needs of your students and the context of the students who are currently, on your campus, the realities that they face. Um, I know, Nina, you talked about um, engaging alumni and getting insights from them. Did you do that when you were writing the proposal, or was that something that you did once the program was in place?
Yeah, so we actually did reach out to our alumni to kind of just learn about like things that were barriers for them and what kind of help they wish they have had in a fairly informal way as part of the like kind of before we wrote the proposal. Um, and we did learn a lot from that. And it's interesting because some of the things they said, they really are true. Like we really, as we were implementing our program, we realized like how true those things were. Like this barrier to being able to do the thesis research for many of the students, that was a big thing that, there were kind of things that they said that should have made us realize that that was a bigger barrier than we realized, even, from the alumni um, the interviews, the informal alumni interviews. But so yeah, I think we did reach out to them and their advice was incredibly helpful. And I would just say like that's probably a really good idea is to, even if it's a small number, to reach out to the alumni, ask them for honest feedback, and then really listen to what they say because they were spot on.
Kim, were there any activities you did when writing your proposal to kind of tailor it to meet your student needs?
Uh, I think one of the things we wanted to emphasize was we wanted to communicate accomplishments. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but we have a newsletter that where we have a team of students and faculty that talk about what the students are doing, talk about their research. Uh, One of the things that we also did with the feedback that we're getting is to develop a handbook for our students, and not a graduate handbook in the sense that your graduate college would have policies and procedures, but something that's positive and useful to navigate the program. That's not really an activity, but it's I think an outcome that future students can use.
That's really neat. And Bob, any ways that you tailored your program, whether it's your proposal or during your program to meet the realities of your students?
Um, we realized that some of our students were coming from smaller colleges, and they all had some biochemistry, but not necessarily a strong program. So we had them take a summer class here at NC State in biochemistry and get that background. And I think um, this grant, we're having a 2 week kind of bridge program before they arrive, and I think part of that is cohort building, but really to try to understand people's skills and introduce certain skills like reading some literature or uh, doing a few things in the lab. So trying to just help them also transition. to graduate school, because I think that was something that people were not always aware of some of the aspects of that. So trying to support them to transition, I think that was one thing. Um,
One of the
yeah.
things we did as part of writing the proposal specifically for our students in mind, and this was something we had heard from the alumni, and the idea that, in our program, there's very few kind of credits hours that are towards the thesis research. So we heard a lot about how, they're trying to get this degree, they want to do the research, but because there's still so many classes that they have to take on top of the research, it's almost like it works out better for them, even though they know it's not as useful to do the class-based masters with the literature review, where they're not doing the research. Because, if they only have a limited amount of time, the research is very time consuming, but the credits that were, rewarded for that time were very minimal. So that was actually something we knew we had to change to enable more students to be able to do the research thesis. So we went through a program modification to change where a student can do a higher number of research credits. So that basically means that they don't need to do quite as many courses if they are doing a research thesis. And that, just it sounds like a very small change and like more programmatic than anything, but it really did make a difference. It just kind of allowed it all to work out for some of the students who are working a little bit better to be able to do that research.
I
Go ahead,
this
Bob.
is not exactly the topic, but I feel like students never want to tell you that they're having troubles in some way, even when they are having troubles. And so that's one thing I think that we've trying to do better at, is to be more in communicating with them in a way to understand what um, struggles they have. So we've had some students, who have had health issues, and didn't tell us, or until there was a problem or something in the lab, or yeah, I don't know, have some academic challenges. So being in touch with the students and enough to really understand the challenges they're facing. Everyone's an individual, I feel like, and getting to know them enough to help them when they have problems, I think.
Thank you for making that point because, um, students really are the focus of, or scholars are really are the focus of these programs and supporting them to be successful. And that requires, community building and relationship building and um, which also requires time and effort, which is another question that, we often hear asked. It wasn't asked today, but something I think is worth posing to you all. So STEM awards are complex, right? You're wearing many hats. There are many moving pieces. You have many responsibilities as a PI. But you're also a faculty member and you have all these commitments of teaching, research, service, administration. How do you increase your capacity to complete all that is needed to run an STEM award? And maybe also, how do you account for staff time and effort when writing an STEM proposal? So I'll address this to Tim first.
I know there's a limited amount of what do you call it? Like overhead sort of this has got to be mostly scholarships. And so you might feel like this is a volunteer operation, because because of that. But it doesn't need to be. We we built in some administration costs. So if you can identify a staff member to help you lead the administrative side of this, our college has a post-award specialist who focuses on sort of supporting faculty that after they get grants. And if you don't have this at your institution, maybe talk to your dean or talk to your, somewhere up the chain. Can you borrow some of the staff resources to help you do so that you're not doing the everything that you need to do because you really need to focus on the on the mentoring and some of the other aspects. I think assigning clear roles to your PIs in the beginning is helpful too. I haven't had to do this, but I've sort of come close. Don't be afraid of replacing team members. You know, if maybe something changes in their life and they're not able to provide the support that they expected to, you can identify someone else. Um, it's always better, of course, to to talk with talk with the team, talk with that person, and just make sure that you have the support that is distributed among the team and not on just one or two team members.
We've hired a, we have some money to hire a staff person to help with recruiting because we do a lot of, we go out and recruit students and we're not able to pay them so much. I mean, the budget gets used up in lots of ways, the discretionary budget, but that's very helpful to have someone who's focused on recruiting and staying in touch with students. I think faculty will plug in if they have a way to an organization to plug into, and so having someone focused on the managing part, not so much the bureaucratic things, but like the day-to-day recruiting and being in touch with students, I think is very helpful.
Anything to add, Nina?
I think the we did use a significant like portion of the non-scholarship uh, portion of the budget towards our external evaluator. And I think our external evaluator has definitely been like worth all that money in that they've just the support that they provided to the program in terms of the research and the evaluation. So that piece has been really like well managed because of them. So I think that's been something kind of like a sort of support that allows a little bit more just a very supportive thing for us. In terms of like, I think I just agree with what Tim and Bob already said about like just reaching out to ask for the resources. It seems that, whenever I ask for resources like from the dean's office, like, they are very happy to connect with me with the right person and the right office. So I think that's one thing that I didn't do well enough in the beginning. It's just kind of I would like try to solve my own problems and call these offices without having the right person to talk to, and or kind of not getting a lot of traction. But once I realized that when I have a problem, it's not a negative thing to go to the dean's, maybe go to the dean and just say like I need help with this. Can you help me connect with the right person? And my dean had no problem doing that. So getting that support, now I just basically, instead of trying to solve my own problems, I ask my dean's office. And that's worked out much better. And also not trying to kind of reinvent the professional development kind of sessions when those already exist at our university. So working closely with our career services and just realizing how much high quality programming they already have and then like using that has been really good.
All great advice. Thank you. So we're wrapping up on time. I just have one question. So what is one key piece of advice you have for folks submitting an S-STEM proposal? And all three of you are track two proposals. So in particular, submitting a track two proposal that focuses on graduate scholars. What would be your key piece of advice, Tim?
I think I mentioned the focus on community building. I think this is we talked a lot about this because of some of the challenges inherent with graduate students and full-time, people who work full-time. But uh, um, think about how to do this effectively.
Bob, what's your key piece of advice? Oh, you're on mute. Sorry.
Well, I lost connection for a second. What was the question?
What's your key piece of advice for those submitting a proposal, in your case, a track two proposal for graduate scholars?
Well, I think it's important to figure out the needs of the students. I do think one thing that motivated me when I started was that there really is very little funding for graduate students or master's students in general. And so, I was looking for ways to help with that, and especially low income students. Um, I think, it's providing amazing opportunities for people who really are looking for opportunities and don't have them. So um, finding the needs of a population of students is I think key, and thinking about opportunities for them. I think for us being in Research Triangle Park, there's lots of opportunities, and we spend a lot of time thinking about what needs were being met by our program too. So those are two key things.
And Nina, what's your key piece of advice for track two grad focus programs?
I kind of echo what Bob was saying. Basically, I think that, a master's program is typically 2 years, and and sometimes it can be even, 15 months, or year and a half, depending on how fast the student goes through it. So it's a very small amount of time to provide, those supports or experiences. I think it's important to prioritize when writing the proposal. So not trying to do just like a kitchen sink of all kinds of supports, but be really intentional. Like as to Bob's point, to like understand what the students most need, like what do they want out of um, their master's degree. What do they want at the end of the master's degree? Most, like in our case, most of them want to go to industry. So what do they need to be able to do that? What do they need to learn? For our population, the research is super important. If they can have a publication, we see the impact of that on them getting a job, and their offers, their salary, et cetera. So and then, those connections with industry. So rather than sort of trying to like just throw everything at them and potentially create a lot of demands on their time and also on the staff time, thinking about like what are the most impactful activities for that population that will get them to where they want to go, so that it's a good use of their time.
Thank you all so much for sharing your knowledge and experiences. It was a great discussion. Also, thank you to Tom Kim for joining us and for all you for attending and providing your great questions. Um, Before you leave, please take a moment to complete our short survey to let us know your thoughts on ways we can improve our offerings. It's so important for us. Thank you in advance. And next slide, a final note. We encourage you to stay connected with us. Visit the REC's website, explore our resources, sign up to receive our monthly newsletter, and follow us on social media. Thanks again for joining us today. Thank you so much to our panelists. We look forward to engaging with you all in future webinars and activities. Have a great rest of your day and wishing you the best of luck with your NSF S-STEM proposals that are due March 3rd. Best of luck, everybody.